I was watching a video yesterday by Silver Soul 7 about PSI, or Psi, and in it he cited a book by Dean Radin, who I hadn't really come across before, called The Entangled Mind. Obviously I haven't read the book since I only came across it yesterday, but I did a bit of research for a couple of hours yesterday about Dean Radin and about this book. And from what I can tell, it's about, well, it takes on a whole set of paranormal activities, paranormal phenomena, remote viewing, telepathy, precognition, retrocognition, different kinds of possible phenomena like that. And then first off makes the case that these things exist. Now obviously I haven't read that book, but I have done quite a bit of reading about that, and I haven't found any compelling evidence myself that those things even exist. But who knows, maybe they do. But then, as I understand it, Dean Radin goes on to put alongside that some ideas to do with quantum physics, particularly quantum entanglement and presumably non-locality. And here I do start to have a bit of a problem with that, because obviously there's a lot of that kind of stuff about. And there's a lot of comparisons of physics with kind of woo-woo, mysterious, paranormal stuff, which I find deeply unsatisfying. It does always feel like an attempt to me to justify a piece of highly speculative weirdness by clamping it to a piece of scientifically verifiable weirdness. It's what Murray Gell-Mann, the physicist, described as quantum flapdoodle. So I don't entirely buy that. I will have a look at the book. I did watch a video of his, of Dean Radin's, from from the Theosophy Society of New York last night. And I think the fact that he's presenting it in that context speaks volumes, really. But as I say, I will look at that book and see if there's anything in it. But I do like this idea of the entangled mind. I like that a lot. And I'm just wondering what it is about that attracts me, and whether there's a much more kind of naturalistic understanding of that phrase which makes more sense. And I think there certainly is, really. I think when we talk about entanglement and we talk about minds, and I don't know, for some reason we're terribly attracted to these paranormal and highly speculative phenomena. But the natural world in which we live is so weird and strange anyway, that I think there's a way of deploying entangled mind ideas just to explain the natural world in a way. I mean, certainly, whatever these things called minds are, they're the result of evolutionary processes which are tailored specifically to the survival and reproductive demands of medium-sized animals, medium-sized social animals for that matter, medium-sized social mammals living in certain kinds of groups, interacting with the world in certain ways, with certain demands. And so a mind like that would have to throw up certain things. It would have to allow for social reality to be negotiated. It would have to allow for negotiations with physical objects to be negotiated. And I think I've mentioned before, Richard Dawkins calls matter a useful fiction. What he's saying there is that the completely real experience of solid matter is a product of our minds dramatizing the kind of physical relationships that we have as medium-sized objects, as a result of our evolutionary heritage. And I think the same is true with our social world. Here we are in this world which we share with other human beings, all of whom have got the same, pretty much the same ecological niche, all of whom have got the same demands to negotiate, all of whom are trying to avoid bumping into walls, so they're all simultaneously deploying the useful fiction of matter, all of which are, imagining things and predicting the future. And in that sense, I think our minds are entangled. There's another chap walking his dog in this field over there, along with me walking my dogs. And here we both are, both constructing the useful fiction of this material field that we're walking through, and by that I mean the kind of the useful fiction of the phenomenal experience of that field. We're both having this experience of cold on our faces, because it's freezing today here in Cheshire. Again, as a result of the evolutionary history which produced the mind, which is sensitive to changes in temperature, which might otherwise damage us if we weren't sensitive to that. So our minds are both my mind and the mind of the man over there, are tangled up in the construction of this shared world. And it's a shared social world, it's a shared physical world as well. You know, his phenomenal experience is probably very similar to mine. It would need to be, because the demands of his organism are the same as mine, pretty much. And even things like spatial distance. I'm not sure if I can wrap my head around this idea yet, but certainly, you know, proximity and distance away from objects and away from other individuals is itself a kind of dramatisation of a degree of entanglement. The things which are relevant and pertinent to my life, and obviously the life of all of my ancestors since the beginning of time, have been those ones which can affect me in some way, which have an impact upon me, and it's the same for everybody else. And the people who have an effect upon me are the ones who are most capable of having that effect, if you like. I don't know if that makes any sense. So I think there's even something about our spatialization, our interpretation of experience as spatial distance, is again a mark of our entanglement. We seem to be, I think, that we're kind of creating and organising the world around us, or our minds are doing this, including the space of the world around us, and it's completely entangled with the minds of other people occupying that space, and also the minds of all the people who've occupied this space before. Our historical, our heritage, if you like, our revolutionary heritage, is something, is if you like, a set of minds evolving over time. So we're constantly kind of living in an entanglement of historical minds as well, minds that evolved to dramatise physics in terms of phenomenal experience. Not sure if that makes any sense. Anyway, that's my take on the entangled mind. The world itself is a kind of an entangled mind.